very much. So are we going to form a panel and we'll take questions? I'm sure all of you have had thoughts about the subject.
For those of us who have not heard what cross-pollination is, could you please define it?
Okay. Could we please define cross-pollination? And again, for all of you, I invite you to chip in. Obviously, Herman has some things to say about that, but many of you have been here and have been involved in that process. Cross-pollination, number one, is not about diluting Theosophy in terms of the teachings. As was indicated, it is simply a matter of exploring the teachings, talking about them, understanding them from different points of view. So the cross-pollination is really about the people, it's about the communication, it's about the sharing, it's about the building of trust, it's about the minimizing accusations so that we can simply appreciate the point of view of other. Again, we don't have to agree. This is an exercise in sharing and putting aside our own personal beliefs about any particular thing to look at what is the truth of a situation, and in this case it would be Theosophy. So the cross-pollination, for example, would be if someone had an incorrect idea of, let's just say, one of the ideas in theosophical teaching. Cross-pollination is about, hey, well, let's look at that. We think that is incorrectly expressed. Here are the writings to back that up. And we look at it, we share, and someone may have an aha moment and correct that thought. Or they may show that there is a way to further extend an understanding in application, or to look at what that idea might possibly infer. So this is really about a living dialogue. It's not about saying a teaching is right or wrong. It's really about understanding the point of view of the other and determining whether or not for ourselves it is valid. And does it help us in embracing the teaching to a greater degree and using that teaching in the world? So again, the one point, and I had a conversation with someone about this before even coming to the conference, we have to understand that the first purpose is about the teachings of HPB. It's about Theosophy as presented by HPB and our teachers, not about anything that is considered to be theosophical, but about those teachings. And so that is the dialogue that we're having around those teachings.
No, I think I agree. I think the idea, well, let's say maybe Dutch people are more farmers than other countries, but we immediately understand the symbolic meaning of the idea of cross-pollination, and that is what I personally, I'm speaking for myself now, have experienced as to be very effective. Being now around for, let's say, 10 years, 2007 was my first ITC conference. And I must say, I have learned a lot by that. And some things have me really point in the direction of, much better in the direction of the Seeker doctrine, better understanding of the Seeker doctrine, and so on. And it is just because all input from you guys. Simple as that. Because as normal daily life, we learned by all examples around us. Yeah, some examples are not valuable, some examples are extremely valuable. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Conferences where people actually present subjects and say it's in the secret doctrine. Well, as a student of the secret doctrine, I have gone back and looked into the book and I could not find it. So to make it clear, when something is theosophical and it does not come from the original books, it needs to be stated. If it is an opinion, then it needs to be an opinion. It cannot be presented as a fact when it isn't supported by any evidence that it was written about or by the original messengers or the teacher who brought it out. So this student would like to have that clarification made when people actually get up there and present it as if it came from those writings. Thank you.
Unfortunately, you are missing my part. Maybe I heard you a little bit, but everybody here in this room have an opinion about the secret doctrine. Nobody in this room, to my knowledge, have a full understanding of the secret doctrine, 100%. We all have our opinions. But there is a very important thing in the secret doctrine. That is the fundamental propositions, that three. And everything what we should conclude and think should be able to bring back to these three fundamental principles. And understanding this type of teaching is a very dynamic process. And I'm now in this process, in this incarnation, I must say, for something like 40 years. And I think I need another 10,000 years. Yeah?
And let me just add to that point that issue that you brought up is another reason for ITC, but because the dialogue shouldn't stop here. The dialogue should actually continue after the conference is over. So if you have identified something that a student has said, you can call them up, email them, have a discussion about it, and that's good communication. That's good exchange.
Hi, just a quick question or point of clarification. For people who are new to ITC and this is their first conference, what are we doing here now today? What are we trying to accomplish for somebody who's brand new and here for the first time so they can understand the gist of what we're doing?
Yeah, well, I think what we have to say is that ITC itself try to work between the mainstreams. So my personal opinion is that this type of conferences, everybody is welcome. Everybody who is new in Theosophy is welcome. But this is not the most easiest conferences, because we try to establish intercommunications in the streams. So that means that we all have already studied Theosophy for a while. We have to work on the different, let's say, interpretations, the different opinions, the different literature we use. So ITC challenge is to have that intercommunication. So that is our focus. ITC itself have not an intention to be in other theosophical organizations, to go out in the street and to help people to understand Theosophy in general, because we have enough organizations, we think. Yeah, and if you go to our tradition, you will see that if we go out to the public, we bring a total other type of presentations. We try to do it as simple as possible to give everybody who is coming in new and easy access to Theosophy itself. Yeah, so again, everybody is welcome, but we should realize that ITC itself, his purpose is different. Yep.
I mean, the only other thing that I would like to say is that it's just been unfortunate over time that what was Theosophical unity has fragmented, and people have been drawn to different aspects of Theosophy through the different organizations, not realizing that there are brothers and sisters in other organizations. So ITC, from that perspective, is just trying to rekindle that communication, that recognition, that acknowledgement, so that we can still do things together that are in benefit or benefiting the world, despite the fact that we have different points of view out of necessity.
From my understanding and reading some of the Mahatma letters, the masters communicated with at least 10 different mortals, maybe more. Does that mean that, and many of those mortals wrote books, does that mean that if it's not in HPP's book, it's a lie? I mean, why can't we be like one of the great masters by the name of Babaji said, select the sugar from the sand and discard the rest? Why can't we read and draw information and knowledge and truth from multiple teachers rather than just from HPB?
Well, I must say that I don't know what is your personal attitude or tradition you are coming from. Myself coming from Mahayana Buddhism, and then walking in on the first Theosophical meeting after something like 10 years of study Mahayana Buddhism. And then I was thinking by myself, my God, they know it. I spent 10 years to understand the stuff, and here I'm coming in and I just put it on the table. So that was my first evening over there. I was always there later on, starts work for it. I was completely taken by it. But I maybe, and don't understand me wrong, to my opinion, Theosophy, secret doctrine, isn't true and an information you don't find it in other tradition. That rich, that wide, that detailed, that far-going principle. So, of course, I'm still reading Buddhism, yeah? And I still like Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu and all that traditions. Why? Because they are coming very close to the Theosophia. And HPB was not bringing the whole Theosophia. She was just bringing what was, let's say, suitable for this time. The intention was to do the secret doctrine in 4, bindings, yeah? They only did 2, because it was more than sufficient. And I must say, it is quite sufficient what is standing in the secret doctrine myself. So, of course, I look around. I'm reading physics magazines, and I found in that physics magazine sometimes examples of Theosophia, and I think, this is close, but never that, let's say, to the point as HPB is doing it. To understand his presentation or her presentation in the secret doctrine demands quite a training, a mental training to understand it, yeah? Most of the time what you find in physics and so on, they all come from material side, yeah? In the Netherlands we have a Dutch guy, Erik Verlinde, he is working on gravity, and he has some new ideas, and they're coming close to Theosophy, close. But from Theosophical point of view, you can do a much better job. Yep.
No, you don't. Sorry about that. And again, this is coming from, I think, Is Theosophy a Religion, the article. And HPB says a lot of things there, but she says, if you really understand Theosophy, you will find truth even in the information that is presented incorrectly. And so, why do we have to hold on to the root? Because the root has been through all of the experience. Theosophy, depending upon your ability to embrace it and get lost in the ocean, does have the answers. And so if we're doing it from the inside out, we're not prejudiced, we're not biased, second object, explore it all, identify the truth in it all, bring it together, present a nosegay of information for individuals depending upon where they're at and what they're ready for. And then you've got your own inner path, because what she says in that article is that Theosophy is that perfect harmonizing force that makes the human divine. There is no other system on this earth that is claiming to bring it from the inside out according to the ancient science that has been explored, tested, and verified. And so it remains for us to believe, to have the trust, to gain the knowledge of, and to experimentally understand just those things.
We've got time for one more question.
Hi, I was wondering how much this forming a universal brotherhood has to do with feeling, because you Brotherhood seems to be of a feeling that you have. So how much is emotion involved? I was thinking a few minutes ago when Gene came up and he threw his arm around me and gave me a kiss on the cheek, that it was a wonderful feeling. But we've done a lot of analysis of forming a nucleus of universal brotherhood. But how much do we include emotion in this endeavor?
I am not well known to handle emotions. For me, brotherhood is a very fundamental principle, what I found in the secret doctrine in the first proposition. Everything is one. Everything is interconnected. Everything is belonging to the same. So you can do that from emotional point of view, but you can do that from intellectual point of view. You can also do that from Buddhic point of view. And quite often people speak about, yeah, you have to become one and so on. No, we are one. The only thing what we have to do is to realize that we are one. Yeah, it is like the ocean. All the waves think that there are individuals and they are not interconnected. But there are just effects in the ocean. We are just effects in the one, in the totality. So you can approach that from emotional point of view, but I think from Buddhic point of view, from vision point of view, for me is much more important. And that is what I try to say in my lecture as well. You have to accept or to step up to that attitude and start looking, not we are one, or sorry, we should be one. No, we are one. You should really try to realize all the time that we are one. There is always interconnection. Everything what we do affects all others in this world. Also our conferences.
Thank you. Just to follow up, I mean, I believe, and some of you that may be more familiar with the quote might correct me, but in the Secret Doctrine, HPP says that when that germ of mind began to be awoken in the earlier races, the first feeling that they had was that of universal solidarity. That is different than emotions, which is the external emotive forces and factors related to a personal idea of I, me, and mind as separate from everyone else that's making me feel good. But the feeling of solidarity is not about me feeling good. As was indicated, it's about being and presence and recognition. And so we might say that when we've got to that point where we're resonating with that ketone of nature, that initial vibration that she speaks about in the Secret Doctrine that pervades for the entire round, if not 7 rounds, then we are united in solidarity, in unition, and we are resonating together as one. And if you reflect on this conference and other conferences, you will see bits and pieces of that factor showing in the similarity of things that are being said, in the way that they are being said, the fact that everybody has just about the same ideas, expressing them a little twist here, a little twist there. That is solidarity. That is union. And she says in union is strength. But it's not emotion. So again, I'm making a distinction between true feeling as resonance and the emotional expression of that feeling, because she said that feeling was one of solidarity. And so just reflect on that, if this is the last point, through the conference, and realize that when the questions are being asked within your study group or study circles, and when you're looking at coming up with answers, that everybody's coming up with the same thing. Why is that? If we really, really, really were different in terms of our teachings and our traditions, would we be thinking the same thoughts? Sharing the same ideas? No. So again, separation, as she says, the closest that you really get to separation is in your headset. in the idea of separation. What we have to do is realize that we are resonating as one life. And then we have to appreciate, respect, communicate, and if we do that, we cover all the bases. We cover all the colors of the rainbow, all the fractionations, and we can bring it back to that unity, not so much in sameness of doing what we do or how we do it, but unity in terms of getting what needs to be done for the benefit of everyone in the world. Thank you.
Thank you both very much.